All right, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the tier list for the current patch, which is 13.1b. We're going to talk about a little bit of the changes. This was also my tier list for 13.1. Some of the changes coming in affect some of these picks, and let's see where we end up at. I don't think the support role will switch up too much, so I'm just going to start from the bottom, and I'll also note that this tier list is a little bit, some of it has to be explained because some picks are going to be more better or best for high elo, and then some picks are going to be best for lower elo. And when I say lower elo, I'm thinking silver, gold, lowish, and then high elo is obviously probably in my mind Masterson up, and when you can really push a champion. There's not that many differences, actually, despite what you would think. I'll get to them when I get to them. But another thing to note, if the champion is not currently on this list, it's either A, I honestly just legit forgot or skipped it or missed it, or B, it probably belongs in the garbage tier, and there's no point in going over those too much. I'm just going to try to do some of the main ones that people still seem to be picking, and some of the ones people might consider picking with the changes. For example, Annie has her rework coming up. I don't think it's really going to help her support. It's kind of built to help her mid lane. And I still don't think she's going to be good. There's people that do what she does just flat out better. She's going to remain in garbage tier, in my opinion. Morgana's really, really weak. Really weak. Vel'Koz, one of the weaker mage supports. Veigar, one of the weaker mage supports. And I should note that this isn't saying you can't make it work. I think, for example, some of the Veigar supports could easily still play. But if you had asked me what's giving me the best chance to win, that's kind of what this tier list is about. Yuumi is she's through the floor bad. She was already bad. And she just today got huge nerfs. So I can't imagine why you would ever want to play her unless you're just a huge fan of the champion. Jin's picking up a lot heavily in pro and stuff. He doesn't really work in most elos of solo queue, for one thing, and for two, he doesn't work too well with the current solo queue meta in the North American ladder. He works a little bit better in Korea. Moving up to the weak tier, Braum. Honestly, you could possibly argue he should go up some. He struggles a lot in a lot of the current matchups, and he also can't punish enchanters right now. His only benefit right now is he's really good in anti-dive situations, and diving bot lanes is big, and he's also really good in dive situations if played properly. He kind of falls behind. He can't punish enchanters as much. He doesn't bring as much to the table in the team fights as them. I know that sounds counterintuitive because he brings a good chunk of CC, but there's just a lot more peel, and with 80 carries becoming so prevalent, he may or may not move up or down. We'll see. Galio lost all his flash potential plays when they took away his flash W forever ago, and then they took away his flash E after that. So there's just way better picks. There's better aggressive picks because that's normally a void he kind of fills. Moving on, Gragas, obviously weak. Ashe, obviously weak. It's just a known thing. Has decent counter matchups, but other than that, weak. Brand, not doing too hot. He's pretty bad in dive situations. Hard for him to follow up unless there's CC already hit, and it's hard for him to be anti-dive. He's very easily diveable, actually. Lulu is probably one of the weaker enchanters, in my opinion, in most elos. 80 carries really don't know how to use the extra move speed and attack speed properly. Twitch support, only good if you are a stellar Twitch player and know how to abuse the stealth and really get around the map. The next tier, we have Pyke, Nautilus, Alistar, Thresh, all filling very similar roles. Pyke a little more aggressive, struggling a little bit, and I honestly believe taking a slight nerf in the item changes, losing ability haste on Maw and Death Stance, getting nerfed so hard it's not even a viable option anymore. Nautilus and Thresh suffer from a little bit of a lack of damage. They don't really have the punch that they really need to get through the amount of healing and stuff in the game right now. And it's kind of too high risk and for the most people in most elos, it's realistically not worth it because you really need your jungler to play around you if you're those picks. Alistar very easily poked out, has to play pretty hyper aggressive and catch people off guard to pretty much make him work, which a lot of Alistar mains do, but he is on the weaker side. Senna Tahm Kench. I put them next to each other. Tahm Kench can technically also still be played with stuff like Varus, who's not terrible in the meta, but they are still on the weaker side, and I don't recommend it to you playing it in solo queue unless you have a diehard need to do it for some reason. All right, moving up to average, and these are the ones that are actually worth mentioning probably at this point. Swain is doing pretty well in the meta as a Swain support. I think Swain in general is just a little bit overtuned and strong right now. I think support is probably still one of his weaker roles. Bard hasn't been particularly below like an average 50% median line in a long time. He's very good in solo queue for players who can play him. He's probably worse in lower elos. They tend to be too chaotic. You can't get to the situations as fast as you would want to. And your AD carry doesn't know how to play if you ever go collect chimes and make a roam and make a play. Your AD carry most likely doesn't know that, hey, I can just wait and I only miss like 40 gold. The Lux, I had a hard time putting in average because I think I've had a lot of success on her this season. I think she's my highest win rate at like 90 something percent and above 10 games. She has a lot of good matchups and a lot of immobile carries in the meta right now. And I think you can catch a lot of people off guard. I'm going to say if you are a lower elo player, she probably moves up just because people have trouble dodging and you get a lot more carry potential with it. Karma, I actually debated moving down because I think she's one of the weaker supports for the goal of hyper pushing and hyper bullying the lane and then doing dragons. I think you have Lux. I think you have Nami. I think even Heim, obviously. Dareth, he's probably one of the better mage supports. I see a lot of people having success with him. I unfortunately play Pyke, so I have a good matchup into it. So I have a biased view on it, but I know a lot of Xerath supports are actually doing really good right now. Seraphine support is a support I don't see too much, but I know people are still making it work. I still believe she's better in other roles, but if you had to, you could, I guess. I'd almost want a tier that's just called Y, and I'd probably put her in it. Leona's one of the better engaged supports right now. She's doing kind of well. She does decently into most of the enchanters, minus probably Janna as an obvious one. And she does pretty good in the early skirmishes fights. So not doing terrible. Zillion's just an overall decent pick. And obviously, if you have the Hecarim in your jungle and you want the Zillion speed boost for him, you can easily max your speed boost, your E, and get a lot of work done because you don't necessarily need the Q damage to farm. You can easily max the E and have E max earlier as support. It also helps set up for picks. All right, moving up to the next tier. These are probably ones that either have some significant advantage or an item is really favoring them that is currently overtuned. For example, we have Zac with Radiant is doing really well, even in other lanes, in mid, and top, and jungle, and support. Zac is winning above average in all of those, I'd say. He's very strong engaged for when jungle ganks are coming in. He's also pretty hard to dive with his passive. He can eat a lot of damage. He can eat a lot of CC. So he has a lot of things going for him. Going on from there, we have Renata. And Renata's really been nerfed several times, but she's always kind of relevant just because of what her kit does and how strong it is. And the base abilities, their utility is just kind of nutty. She hasn't really changed. She's pretty much been the same she's always been. But if you were just randomly like, I'm going to one trick Renata, I think you could do fine. I think you could do well above average. Now, my next pick is Zyra. I think Zyra, in my personal opinion, is the strongest mage support minus Heim because I think her percent damage from Liandry stacking, which she does very, very, very well. her anti-dive through a root, an AoE root, and her AoE knockup on her ult makes it pretty hard to dive her. She has very good zone control for objectives. She applies slows very easily if you end up choosing to build the Rylai's, similar to how you play Heim. She just has a lot of opportunities, and I'd say her biggest thing is positioning. If you miss position on her, you're very easily punished, which is the case for most mage supports. Next, we have Rell. Rell is in a weird state of the people that do play her very well. I don't think I would recommend her to people, but I don't think she's bad. I think her shield break is still really nice. I think her engage in team fights is really nice because objectives are really running the game right now. She's got a lot to her. I don't think I'd recommend her, to be honest, but she's winning a ton of games. People that play her are doing really, really, really well. She's honestly pretty fun once you get used to her longer cooldowns. She's a little clunky to play, but fun champion for sure. Next in line, we have Nami. Obviously, Nami just got a little bit of a nerf on her E. I believe it was 5 damage off all ranks. Now, I don't think that alone pushes Nami out of the picture, but she was obviously weaker without Lucian, and Lucian also, taking a little bit of an early game hit. They're trying to curve Nami Lucian out because it's so dominant in even pro play. But you can do a lot with Nami. Her ult is extremely strong. Her Q is extremely strong. Every single one of her abilities has high impact. Arguably, the W of all things is the lowest impact. And that's an insane heal damage combination. I will say for the next 3, Soraka, Sona, Nami. Heal cut is getting buffed starting tomorrow, I believe, when the patch comes out. It's all items will give 40% instead of the 25% per usual. So heal cut technically gets bumped up, so most heal champs technically take a loss. Soraka, Sona, I think, feel very similar things. They scale, especially Sona, scales insanely well into the later game. The high impact ults of Sona, and then Soraka can really bait a lot of dives. I know you think she's an easy dive, which in some situations she is, but with her silence, and if she gets ult, and if she runs barrier or exhaust, it can really bait teams. Heal cut currently is not good. We'll see with the 40%, because I think that will change Soraka specifically. But Sona, hyper carry into the late game, cooldowns and items do a lot for her. So I don't think she will take as big of a hit. Next, we have Amumu. Amumu is still one of the strongest early supports, and I honestly almost moved him up simply because of how well he pairs with Draven. And the IE changes coming out, I think personally, Draven will be a top solo queue pick again. He's super aggressive. His level 1 is insanely strong, one of the strongest in the game. Pyke, it's one of the few that could probably get similar, but as far as having 2 stuns, Cheap Shot makes him do a ton of damage, and there's good items for him. If you get super fed, Demonic is obviously insanely strong on him if you ever need to play him in jungle. His ult, also huge game changer for objectives. You can see at the top of the list, we kind of have all big team fighters for the most part. He's got a lot of lockdown. QRQ is pretty annoying. The enemy pretty much always ends up having to take cleanse and some kind of movement ability, or else they'll get hit by the next CC. A lot of times AD carries will be cleanse and gale force. It forces their hand a lot, and you can heavily punish some of these enchanter matchups. Moving on, this is a pick that I threw up here mainly for the lower ranks, but it's worth noting that he has a good win rate in every rank for a very long time. Very, very long time, and that's Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank, he's not picked as much anymore, but he's always going to be good in solo queue just because of how people play and the lack of communication and how bad picks can be. So people play pretty greedy. They go in places they know they shouldn't. You get a lot more opportunities, and you have a lot of influence, and you're kind of playing your own game in a sense, because for the most part, you're just threatening these hooks. Like, if you hit the hook, you hit the hook. If you don't, you don't. There's not much interaction here, right? It's like Janna's not gonna like tornado your hook out of the air or something, or you know, Sona, Soraka, Nami, Dyra, Renata, like all these strong picks. If they get hit by it, they're just hit by it. It's done. So he's good in lower elos, and he's always still holding a good win rate for the people that do play him in the higher elos. There's more tricks to him in the higher elo that you have to really abuse, but lower elo you can really take off with him. This next pick is not a pick I would put this high or even close to this high in low elo. Rakan is extremely hard to play properly. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he has super high movement, you have quick decision making, and you have very fine windows to hit your engages, and you really, really need to, or else your champion's doing nothing. That being said, in Challenger, he is dominating. He's very, very good. The top Rakan players are also very, very good. I am not one of those people. I wish I was, but they play him extremely well and find situations that most cannot. But I felt like it was worth mentioning of how good he is in case people were like, I might want to one trick Rakan. It's like, well, if you want to devote your life to a champion, then sure, he's probably one of the best, in my opinion. He has endless outplays and endless opportunity. The last godlike person, in my opinion, is Janna. I do debate moving her down after her recent nerfs. She's seen a few rounds of nerfs because she's been one of the top enchanters in solo queue for a very, very long time. And it's probably not going away with the dive meta and with the 80 carry buff either. Protecting your 80 carry turns out is very, very important. Turns out in a fighter meta with a ton of dive, not many enchanters have enough utility like Janna does, a slow, a knock up, and a knock away, and a heal attached to it, which is an insane heal, may I add. It insane amount of healing. But she's actually really fun to play too. I'll give it to her. I occasionally am a Janna enjoyer. These last two technically got nerfed, but I want to talk about their nerfs. I want to talk about Maokai first. Maokai's nerf is Q jungle damage, and then E magic damage. The sapling and your knockback. The knockback thing is irrelevant. You're a support. And then the E change, I honestly don't think AP Maokai is the way for the support Maokai. I like building Radiant early, and I like a W max and spamming my ult and making flash W plays. I believe Demonic Embrace, which also got nerfed, by the way, is too expensive for most supports, including Maokai. I think he's still fine. Very strong. His ultimate is insanely strong. It's nuts. It's nuts. And then W, if Aftershock makes you tanky enough and makes up for the fact you don't have as much gold as a support. So it's not bad. The last pick being Heim. Heim's nerf is his W damage, I believe, got 10 off, which is not negligible, I'd say. It's, you know, you hit 2 or 3 Ws early in a lane. That's 30 damage you missed. Now, his turrets losing a lot of their level 1 base health is the big kicker. We'll have to see the thresholds. Does things that wouldn't one-shot in the past now one-shot? Does one ability in auto now clear? Because in the past, usually it was an ability and 2 autos. And this is looking like it might make it an ability and an auto. And that could change some of the matchups. That could make him less bullying people he shouldn't be bullying. Currently, insanely strong. He pushes towers really well. He takes objectives super fast. He's incredibly hard to dive, and I keep saying this and again, but the dive meta, like being anti-dive, is insane. It's insane in pro play. It's insane in amateur league. It's insane in challenger. It's insane in gold. Just over the top bonkers. We're hoping that the HP nerf actually takes him down because I'm so tired of seeing Heim. That is the tier list, guys, for 13.1b. A little bit of 13.1 in it. I'm interested to see what changes. I don't think as much will for the support role, but we'll see, guys. It very much can. I mean, who knows at this point. But thank you guys again so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more tier lists, or if you want to see some of the guides, make sure you check out the channel. We do champion guides, we have challenger gameplay, we have a ton of options, so please give it a check out. And thank you guys again, and you guys have a wonderful day.